Well, hello, my favorite people. I hope everyone can see me. Let me see how is everyone today. I hope I can see your likes, your waves, your hellos. Let's start and see who do we have on the stream. I decided to do it at 3 and see maybe everybody is awake and some people are not asleep yet. So let's see what countries do we have. Write some comments, guys. I will try to follow the comments and say hello. It's a good Sunday here in United States. Of course, you guys all know that we have elected the Speaker of the House, Republican Kevin McCarthy, finally on Saturday morning at 1 a.m. I was watching it live. So the weekend is sort of quiet compared to what it could have been. So how is everybody's weekend? How is your Sunday? Let me see how are my comments doing here and see whose comments I have. We have hello, Terry from Texas. Hi, Terry. How are you? We got it. Perfect, Terry. Oh, I'm sorry. I see. Yeah, Teresa, but it says Terry from Texas. So cool. How is Texas? Tell us. How is Texas today? Here in Michigan, we're snowless, which is nice. We had exorbitant snow over the days of the Christmas time. It was like, I don't know, 4 feet, 5 feet. But see who else wants to say hello. Sunny. Texas is sunny. Perfect. Do I have comments on the... let's see. Am I even there live? Let me see. I think I am live. See if I could have this. Well, I'm not sure which broadcast. I have both here. And which comments do I have? Let me guys come back to your comments later in a minute. And I will start with a couple of videos I wanted to show you. Oh, we have another hello from Canada. Oh, wait a minute. Yep, we see, well, Canada, KA. Yes, so it's Canada. Perfect. I have a couple of topics. They're really cool, interesting topics here. And we have another comment. Hello, nice to see you. Nice to see you. I see the little handle here. It says Latina. Latina, hello there. Then we have who else? We have Ontario, Canada, Wendy Walker. Then we have Jamaica. Oh la la, love me some reggae. Yay. Hi, Kimar. Who else do we have? We have more people here joining. So I just wanted to do a quick hello, guys. And just so everyone knows, we have a really packed week that passed. We in United States have elected the Speaker of the House, which is a big deal. Our Congress could not function for a few days. We could not have government seated. We could not have new congressmen sworn in because the vote for the new Speaker of the House of Republican majority just kept going on for 4 days. Something like that have not happened in United States since they say for the last 100 years. It went, I think, 14 rounds with not enough votes for the gentleman who was running for it, for the Republican congressman, Kevin McCarthy. He kept losing votes and he gained some votes and he made some concessions and they made some negotiations. At the end, he still lacked one vote. And it almost looked like they're going to go over the weekend and adjourn for the weekend and come back and continue this voting on Monday. But that something happened. It was something that looked pretty physical. It was a heated moment. And then after that heated moment, that decision to adjourn for the weekend was flipped and they quickly voted to hold another vote. And at 1 a.m., the 15th vote was held. and the Speaker of the House was elected. So our weekend started very exciting on Saturday, but thank God it's more or less quiet. But I do have a couple of things, couple of updates on the war in Ukraine. Let me see. We also have Frank here from Canada. We have Sweden. I love it. Hello from Sweden. Sven Sikora, hello there. Let me see. Hello from Uganda. You know, you did say I'm bouncing. I think it's because my camera, you are right, I am bouncing here. Let me see. There is a very interesting contraption here. I'm trying to, maybe I shouldn't shake. Let me try to do this more stable, not touch the screen. I would like to show you. I'm trying to reduce the bounce here. I think that's the camera and the camera and the things that I have it here on the table. I'll show you guys the video. Let me share my screen with you. And the video will be, remember how I always talk about money to Ukraine and how it is very unfortunate that American citizens are being lied to. And of course, people in the world have been lied to, saying that this war is about saving Americans. And I keep mentioning that Senator Lindsey Graham, and people asked me, Elena, could you show us actually what he says? And here it is, guys, what he says. He does say that he is American senator, and he's standing next to a Democratic senator.
Months into this thing.
And they are discussing how they actually like it that Ukraine will fight to the last Ukrainian person. You know, guys, person means children, women, elderly, everyone, not just soldiers, which that would be even unfortunate as well. So let me play this video so you guys know who I'm talking about. Every time I say that American senator likes the path we're on, we United States, that Ukraine will fight till the last Ukrainian person, well, here it is. Here's his
months
spiel.
into this thing. I like the structural path we're on here. As long as we help Ukraine with the weapons they need and the economic support, they will fight to the last person. So Secretary Blinken, I didn't think there was an issue under the sun
to the last person
that would get 100 votes. We found it. Russia's a state sponsor of terrorism.
Yeah, they have no problem with saying Ukraine will fight to the last person. Here is if you missed it.
I like the structural path we're on here. As long as we help Ukraine with the weapons they need and the economic support, they will fight to the last person. So Secretary Blinken, I didn't think there was an issue under the sun that would get 100 votes. We found it. Russia's a state sponsor of terrorism.
Yeah, so you see that, right? But here is another video.
The year of offense.
And, I think it was more of the lines of 2013, 2014, when Republican Senator John McCain was still alive. You know, the media tells you that this war only started in 2022, right? But here is the video of Republican Senator John McCain, who is now deceased, and the Senator Lindsey Graham, who you just heard saying Ukraine will fight to the last Ukrainian. They're visiting Ukraine in this video, and they're talking to Ukrainian soldiers. And they're actually saying that the Ukrainian soldiers need to fight. So the question, John McCain has been dead now for a few years. And this is the video of both of them fighting. Who are they fighting? Yes, guys, the war did not start in 2022. The war started in 2014 when Ukraine started to bomb its own people in eastern Ukraine. And here is your American senators coming there, making connections, weaponizing Ukraine, encouraging soldiers to go fight their own people in eastern Ukraine area. They can call them separatists, they can call them pro-Russian, I don't care. These are the people of eastern Ukraine area who did not like to have American and EU-sponsored coup that Obama, Hillary, Biden, McCain, Kerry, Pelosi, and all of these people sponsored Victoria Nuland in 2015 that took a legally elected president of Ukraine back then in 2014. So here's your senators who will claim that the war only started in 2022. Here as they are, in I believe 2013, 14, 15, one of those years, way back when again John McCain was still alive, and he has been deceased for a few years now, talking to Ukrainian soldiers. Listen in.
2017 will be our fight.
Ваша боротьба – це наша боротьба.
2017 will be the year of offense.
Рік 2016 рік буде ріком нападу.
All of us will go back to Washington and we will push the case against Russia.
Ми всі повернемося до Вашингтону і ми будемо відстоювати санкції проти Росії.
Enough of a Russian aggression.
Досить вже російської агресії.
It is time for them to pay a heavier price.
Час вже, щоб вони заплатили важчу ціну.
I believe you will win. I am convinced you will win, and we will do everything we can to provide you with what you need to win.
Я вірю в те, що ви виграєте, переможете. Я переконаний в тому, що ви переможете, і ми вам допоможемо всіма можливими засобами.
Це те ж саме гільзи з ворожих БМП, які розмальовані художництвом Бердянська.
З Новим роком, дорогі мої!
So that tells you something, guys. And then I have another interesting video for you. Let me show you this one. Let me put it on the beginning portion of it and put on the stop. Let me see who else we have. We have Victoria here. Guys, if you're watching me on the Facebook, and if I don't see your comments, or if I do see your comments, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, ELENA USA Live, 3 words, ELENA USA Live on YouTube. Go on YouTube, hit subscribe, and make sure you click the bell that says all notifications. So next time I go live, or even right now, that you can comment, so we can be in touch when I go next live. Here's another thing, guys, about this war that not too many people talk about. This is a very exciting video. This is an advisor to Zelensky by the name of Mr. Arestovich. He is very famous in Ukraine. His name is Alexei Arestovich, or Oleksiy Arestovich, however you pronounce it. And here's his interview in, I believe, 17, 18. In other words, this interview is a couple of years, or 3-4 years before the 2022 Russia's quote unquote invasion into Ukraine. Listen what now Zelensky's advisor and a very, very influential personality in Ukraine said back way then about Ukraine joining NATO, and how he understands that Ukraine knows that the price for Ukraine to join NATO is a big war with Russia, and he even gives you the dates. Yes, this interview is several years old, so look at that and decide for yourself. Did Ukraine prepare for the war with Russia? Did Ukraine knowingly provoke and pushed for NATO membership? And what did Ukraine do? He pretty much says that we know, I watched the entire interview, and he pretty much did say that we know that for us, for Ukraine to join NATO, the price is a big war with Russia. And it's going to happen around year, I think he said 2021, 22-ish, something like that. So they knew it all. And we now know Merkel and former French President Hollander, they both, or Hollande rather, Canadians may check my enunciation there in French, but they both just recently came out and said that Minsk agreement ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine, guaranteed by Germany and France, was basically a sham, the ploy to buy more time for Ukraine to attack. And here is Ukrainian, very prominent one, advisor to Zelensky, speaks about it years ago. Listen in. You can actually see the subtitle.
То тогда мы можем говорить о каких-то сроках прекращения войны.
Нет, ни о каких сроках прекращения войны мы не будем говорить. Наоборот, это, скорее всего, подтолкнет крупные военные операции России против Украины. потому что они должны нас будут просадить в
They will have to
инфраструктурном
destroy
отношении
us
и
in terms of
превратить здесь все в разваленную
infrastructure,
территорию для того,
in
чтобы
terms
нас
of
неохотно
То есть
брали в НАТО.
Россия сможет пойти на прямую конфронтацию с НАТО?
Конечно, не
Go
НАТО.
to
Они,
other leaders and
они
no,
должны это
no,
сделать до того, как мы вступим в
we
НАТО, чтобы
have
мы
to do
не
it
были
before we
интересны
join
НАТО.
NATO.
Перестали быть интересны,
So
как
NATO is
разваленная
interested
территория.
in us. They won't
С
be
вероятностью
interested unless we do that.
99,9%
There's
наша цена
99.9
за вступление в НАТО – это
probability.
большая война с Россией.
Our entries to NATO is a
А
major
если
war
мы не
with
вступим в НАТО,
Russia.
это поглощение России в течение 10-12 лет.
And
Вот
if we
штука,
don't
в которой
join
мы
NATO,
находимся. А
this
теперь
will
давайте
be
выбирать зеленый.
Подождите,
nothing
теперь если
Russia will
поставить
be
чашу на весах, а
doing.
что лучше в таком случае?
Конечно, крупная война с
So
Россией и
he
переход
says
в
that the
НАТО
big
по
war with
результатам
Russia
победы
is
над Россией.
better.
Самое
Что такое
Being
может быть крупная война с
total
Россией?
war
Вот,
with
Ну, это воздушная операция наступательная, вторжение
And
российских
the
армий,
interview asks, what's
вот
the
четырех, которые они
major
создали
war
на
with
наших
Russia or
границах,
big war
там,
with Russia? What
осада
does that mean?
Киева,
So he
попытка
details.
окружить войска, которые в АТО находятся,
You guys can read it
операция объединенных сил,
in
прорыв
these
через
are
Крымский
English
перешейк, выход
subtitles.
на Каховское водохранилище, чтобы воду в Крым дать, наступление с территории Беларуси, там, создание новых народных республик, диверсии, удары по объектам критической инфраструктуры и так далее, воздушно-десантный. Вот что такое
Yeah,
полноценная
you can
война.
see this
И
interview, like
вероятность
I
ее
said, is several years
99%.
old.
Когда?
После 21-22 самый критический,
He's saying
20-22 самый критический.
21, 22, and he gave you the time frames, and that's exactly when the big war with Russia is happening right now.
То
Again,
есть если Украина получает
I'll
выдачу
play
в
this
НАТО,
real
то
quick.
тогда мы можем
Тогда
говорить
мы-
о каких-то
Read the
сроках
subtitles,
прекращения
guys.
войны.
Нет, ни о
Стоп.
каких сроках прекращения войны мы не будем говорить. Наоборот, это, скорее всего, подтолкнет крупные военные операции России против Украины. Потому что они должны нас будут просадить в инфраструктурном отношении
Again,
и
Alexei
превратить здесь все в
Arestovich,
разваленную территорию для того, чтобы нас
advisor to
неохотно
То
Zelensky.
есть
брали в НАТО.
Россия сможет пойти
One of
на
the
прямую
advisors
конфронтацию
for-
с НАТО?
Конечно, Россия,
And
не
now
НАТО.
former advisor,
Они должны это
present
сделать до того,
advisor,
как мы
I don't know
вступим в
his
НАТО, чтобы мы
name,
не были интересны в НАТО.
But
Перестали
he
быть
talks
интересны,
about
как
NATO,
разваленная
and he
территория.
talks about the price for Ukraine
С
to
вероятностью
join NATO is a big war
99,9%
with Russia.
наша цена
He
за
spells
вступление в
out
НАТО –
the
это
date,
большая война с Россией.
and he says, I think he said year
А если мы
21,
не вступим в НАТО,
22,
это
and
поглощение
then
России в течение
corrected
10-12
maybe year
лет.
20,
Вот и
but of
вся
course
вилка, в
we know
которой мы
we had
находимся. А
COVID,
теперь
right?
давайте выбирать
So
зеленый.
it looks like
Подождите, теперь если
some
поставить
things
чашу на
there
весах, а
happen.
что лучше в таком случае?
Конечно, крупная война с
And this interview is
Россией и переход
years
в НАТО
old, so
по
they knew
результатам
what they're
победы над
doing.
Россией.
А
Совместно
что
с
такое
НАТО.
может быть крупная война с Россией? Вот,
Ну, это воздушная операция наступательная, вторжение
Quiet his
российских
volume,
армий,
okay, guys, quiet in his
четырех, которые
volume.
они создали на наших границах,
Thanks
там,
for letting me
осада
know.
Киева, попытка окружить войска, которые в АТО находятся, в операции объединенных сил, прорыв через
Hard to
Крымский
speak
перешейк,
on the
выход
phone,
на
but you're reading good. Yes.
Каховское водохранилище.
Yeah, he basically explains that Russia will have to destroy Ukraine's infrastructure.
Создание новых народных республик,
Russia will
диверсии,
have to encircle
удары по
Ukrainian
объектам критической
army.
инфраструктуры и
It's
так далее.
insane. If
Воздушный
you
десант.
watch
Вот
this
что такое
interview,
полноценная война.
he basically
Вероятность
tells
ее
you, and you can
99%.
go and rewatch the live stream on the computer once we're done, guys.
21-22
You
самый
see
критический,
word by word
20-22
what he's
самый
saying. Again, this is Alexei Arestovich, Ukrainian, one of the top advisors to Zelensky. Interview a few years old. He's predicting the war in Ukraine, big major war with Russia. And basically, I watched the longer version of the interview. He said, yeah, we know that's the price for us to join NATO, the major big war with Russia. And we're basically doing everything we can to make this happen. Yes. So thankfully, I'm fluent in both Ukrainian and Russian, so I can watch these interviews and see what's happening in real time. But then my next video, guys, here's for you. That ties in with Lindsey Graham. Again, if you missed this, I will
Months into
play it
this thing.
again.
I like the structural path we're on here. As long as we help Ukraine with the weapons they need and the economic support, they will fight to the last person. So Secretary
got it,
Blinken,
right?
I didn't think there was an issue under the sun that would get 100 votes. The structural path, I like the structural
Listen.
path we're on here. As long as we help Ukraine with the weapons they need and the economic support, they will fight to the last person. So Secretary Blinken.
You got it, guys, right? That's Lindsey Graham. Once again, and here's my other video for you. And here's the sad part about this entire situation. This is the cemetery in Ukraine. You could see the freshly dug graves. So Senator Lindsey Graham likes it. And next to him standing Chris Murphy, Democratic senator, while Lindsey Graham is Republican. So they are in agreement on that Ukraine will fight to the last person. And this is, again, to put things in perspective, this is one of many thousands of Ukrainian cemeteries with the freshly dug graves. It's insanity. We're not saving Ukraine. We are actually helping Ukraine to be destroyed and Ukrainian nation to die. I have so many videos, and you could scroll my Facebook page on that. There's videos of marches, of the eulogies and the funeral processions. Young people, older people, civilians, they're dying. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands. Recently, I think the ambassador to one of the countries in Europe, I forget which one, came out and gave interview to, I think it was Politico or something. And he said that we're losing people en masse. It's insane. He acknowledged that and here is another thing. This guy, Alexei Arestovich,
Если Украина получает
this guy,
то
again,
тогда мы можем говорить о каких-то...
he gave another interview, and I'll find it sometime. And in a different interview, he was asked, what if there is a nuclear war with Russia? What if all of this leads to nuclear escalation and Russia decides to send a nuclear bomb, for example, right? Again, interview was a couple of years old too. What Alexei Arestovich, the guy you see on your screen, Zelensky's advisor or one of them or former advisor, but he's very influential. He's like probably number 2 known person after Zelensky, and he gives his predictions and his review of military operations every day. So what he said was to the interviewer that, so what if Russia sends a nuclear bomb? The interviewer was taken aback. He's like, what do you mean? Millions of people would die in Ukraine. Millions of people will die in our country. And Alexei Arestovich's reaction at that interview to the interviewer being shocked that he so calmly suggested that it's no big deal if Putin drops a nuclear bomb on Ukraine, Alexei said, so what? 3.5, 4 million people more will hate Putin. What? Once again, Alexei Arestovich, the guy you see on the screen in one of his interviews a few years ago, when interviewer asked him if there is escalation in war with Russia and Russia decides, which we know Russia said it will not nuke Ukraine. But the interviewer asked this gentleman, the former or present advisor to Zelensky, if that happened, his reaction was, so what? 3 to 4 million more people will hate Putin. In other words, they don't mind losing people. They don't mind this. They don't mind this. And that's why it looks like Ukraine doesn't want to stop. Biden doesn't want to stop, because the more people die, in their mind, it's just more people will hate Putin, and they're fine with that. That's insane, guys. If you're watching in America or any other country, wake up. We're not saving Ukraine. We're actually helping Ukraine to dig more graves in cemeteries just like that. So who do we have? Any more comments I have? Maybe I missed somebody. I don't know if I missed Mr. Nielsen. Let's see if I missed you. I don't know if I have any comments, like I said, in the other chats, because I am streaming to YouTube. If you are on the Facebook and you don't see me, subscribe to my YouTube channel and see the comments that way. Okay, guys. So another thing I wanted to touch upon, as I mentioned, nuclear war and how Mr. Arestovich does not actually mind if there was one in Ukraine. I'll share my screen with you. Well, let me see, Chrome tab, window. I think it's one of these. Pardon my voice, guys. Here's an interesting article. Let me shrink it a little bit. If you can see this article, This article actually goes over these three characters here. First character is Mr. Bilatsky. He is one of the founders of what they call Right Sector. That's one of the battalions that is also known for some of its neo-Nazi affiliation. The second guy is in the middle is Mr. Oleg Tegnibok. And he's also known for neo-Nazi ideology affiliation. In fact, Business Insider magazine, way back when, in I think 2013, published an article called John McCain Goes to Ukraine and Stood on the Stage with a man known or professed to be a known neo-Nazi. Yes, Business Insider, Google that article. And that talks about the guy in the middle, Oleg Tegnibok. He's the founder of Ukraine's Svoboda Party, that translates into freedom. So this article that I'm showing here, let me make it a little bit bigger for you so you could read it, that actually talks about one of them, Mr. Bilatsky, suggesting that Ukraine actually, one of Ukraine's goals is to become a nuclear superpower and basically submit entire world. So this article is by RT, guys. You want to read it, you can Google it. Yes, I've introduced you the characters, and the entire article goes to say of how Ukraine signed what they call Budapest Memorandum after the break of the Soviet Union. Ukraine pledged that it will not host nuclear weapons. Some people say, oh, Ukraine gave up its nuclear weapons. It never had nuclear weapons. The Ukrainian territory, as a part of Soviet Union, was hosting nuclear weapons, which obviously belonged to Russia, Russian Republic at the time, and Ukrainian Republic were both part of Soviet Union. But when they agreed to unification of Germany, then the Soviet Union collapsed, there were some agreements made, and Ukraine exchanged the giving up of hosting nuclear weapons on its territory onto some security guarantees. And some people argue, and Zelensky argues, did everybody fulfill it regarding Ukraine? Did they not fulfill? But the truth of the matter is Zelensky himself has pledged many times that he would like for Ukraine to become a nuclear nation again. And this article keeps going further and actually says that Ukraine actually has a capability to enrich uranium, and I'll scroll it for you guys. You can read it a little bit further over here. As far as what they're doing, the range of possibilities, is Ukraine technically capable of creating an atomic bomb? Absolutely, yes. Enriching uranium number 235 to the purity necessary to set off a chain reaction would cost a lot, primarily to create centrifuges for separating isotopes. However, though this may be the most effective way to separate isotopes, it's not the only one. The first American bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki were created without the use of this technology. In addition, it should not be forgotten that there are not only uranium, but also plutonium bombs. And so it goes on to say how Ukraine actually has a capability. And they built a facility in Kharkov, this says right here in the last paragraph before the photograph, to actually build a facility that could produce isotopes by irradiating the starting materials with a powerful neutron flux, which could also be used to develop what they call fissile materials for a bomb. So with that said, Ukraine has capability and Ukraine has desire to host or to have or to develop nuclear weapons. And therefore, we guys have to be very, very, very cautious as to how and when and what is our path to the future. Because if Zelensky already was calling on NATO to do the first strike at Russia, instead of waiting for Russia to strike, we can safely conclude that the escalation of this into nuclear conflict of some type or nuclear exchange It's very, very possible. And there's many videos that Scott Ritter, the former weapons inspector for UN, made, that he cautions us, and he sometimes says, we may not wake up tomorrow because of how dangerous this is, because we are confronting via proxy war through Ukraine. Russia, which is a nuclear power, has the largest arsenal in the world of nuclear weapons and nuclear warheads. Are we insane suggesting that Ukraine can win against nuclear power Russia? Of course it can't. Unless, of course, maybe NATO wants to intervene and bring their nuclear power. And what do we have then? People, wake up. Americans, wake up. People of the world, wake up. We need to de-escalate. This is insane. And of course, our Congress is hell-bent on providing more weapons, sending more money to Ukraine, 45 billion bill. And I actually read the other day or today that there is another 3.5 billion, pardon me, 3.5 billion that's in the works for Ukraine. One more article that I would like to share with you that I thought was significant as far as what happened. Let me show you really quick. I would have to remove this one really quick. It's about Zelensky. Oh my gosh. Stripping the citizenship away from the priests. So you remember, right, that Zelensky has this war on church that he recently declared. Yeah, that quote-unquote democracy that we praise, and Pelosi praises, oh, Ukraine is this wonderful, beautiful democracy that we need to support with American taxpayer dollars. Well, here's your democracy. And Zelensky, not only that he banned all opposition parties, put all opposition leaders in jail, not only that he bans Russian language, not only that they harass the priests and pastors who are in any way, shape, or form connected to the Russian patriarchy. Well, now these priests here, guys, they're not even connected to Russian patriarchy. When the war started, they declared themselves free and independent from Russian patriarchy. That's another story. In Ukraine area, there has never been Ukrainian quote-unquote Orthodox Church. It was always the church, part of Russian Orthodox religion and part of Russian Moscow Patriarchy. But in 2018, then Ukrainian President Poroshenko got completely involved in the church business and decided to establish Ukrainian church, which Russian Orthodoxy, religious canonized leaders considered anathema to split the church like that, because the church in that area was always under Russian patriarchy. That's internal business of the church. Who rules sort of over which area? They have their agreements. These are the church people who decide that their hierarchy, their synod, or their popes, their patriarch in Orthodox religion. But President Poroshenko in 2018 actually traveled to Constantinople and pretty much forced the priests who decide which territory will be in whose domain, so to speak. And he obtained what they call Thomas, which is permission for Ukrainian church to declare itself separate from what it's been a part of, a Russian Orthodox religion. It's insane. So now Zelensky, now that there is this Ukrainian separate church, which used to be a part of under the Russian patriarchy, now this year with Russia's advances and invasion, quote unquote, they said, oh, we are not going to be under Russian patriarchy, which is going to be Ukrainian, independent, and all good stuff. They're still getting harassed. And here's the article that 13 priests from the Ukrainian now Orthodox religion and church who actually declared themselves independent from Russian patriarchy still got deprived of their Ukrainian citizenship and harassed, and it's insane. And of course, you will find a lot of articles about that on the net. Let me see what we have here for the comments. We have Tom Casey, USA is a business for war, unfortunately. Let me see, did I get? We are not insane, the sociopaths who are running Western governments are. Very true. We are probably one of the few that are not insane because we are capable of critical thinking. So we do not get brainwashed and dumped down by the media lies that they've been telling us for years. I've been telling everybody that the war in Ukraine started in 2014. How many, people who knew me basically took heed to that or paid attention? Most people weren't even interested in what's happening in Ukraine. And a lot of them even not interested what's happening now, even though our taxpayer dollars are paying for Ukraine. We pretty much have 51st state in our republic. And what we have is we're paying Ukrainian government salaries. Of course, we're paying Zelensky and all their parliament members' salaries. We're paying for their social packages, for their health package. We're paying for everything. And now Zelensky cut a deal with American firm that you guys probably heard of called BlackRock. So they will be supervising the operation of rebuilding Ukraine. And of course, Zelensky showed up at Davos, what is it? Davos, how you pronounced it correctly, the World Economic Forum, and pitched to those guys that Ukraine will be the new green energy heaven and like the experiment of the entire world. Let's make Ukraine into this green energy example to entire world. And digitalized example to it. In other words, they have big plans for Ukraine, make no mistake. So the guys from Davos, the guys from BlackRock, the guys from our Congress, don't forget Hunter Biden and Joe Biden and their dealings in Ukraine. A lot of them, guys, are really pushing and pitching Ukraine while your taxpayer dollars are paying for their little sweet deals. So if you don't understand that, you have to wake up. Wake up, everybody. Let me see, what else do we have for the comments here? Okay, I have comments from Tom Casey. Do I have anyone else commenting? Let me see. Do I have lots of other comments to view? Make Europa great again. Make it neutral. Out with all war hunters. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. The truth of the matter is the war is what they call extension of politics by other means, right? So if it took all of these people to come to the realization that they want to fight Russia, they could come out and say, we want to go fight Russia, but no, they didn't. They lied to us. They lied to us for years. They created this perfect image of Ukraine, which was actually bombing and killing its own citizens for last 9 years, and it continues to this day. Only now those citizens voted to join Russian Federation because they pretty much got tired to being exterminated and genocided by their own government, by Ukrainian coup government, by the people who came to power in 2014 that were not elected. And then, of course, they had some sham elections and created some other patsies of the West later on. But the whole debacle, the whole the part where the people of the Eastern Ukraine did not agree and why they asked for some type of autonomy was because the United States and EU sponsored a coup in Ukraine and took down the legally elected President Yanukovych back then. So it's not rocket science. We know who the guilty parties are who destabilized Ukraine. And why did they do it? Well, just to fight Russia and to weaken Russia, break Russia from Ukraine. And if that's our foreign policy, to go and change regimes around the world, I mean, what? Is this what we're supposed to do? As freedom-loving, great Americans who stand for freedom and Constitution, we go around the world and sponsor freaking neo-Nazi coups? Are you kidding me? Well, then I guess we have to stop pretending being nice and democratic and freedom-loving when we actually go and destroy countries like that. Like Ukraine now is being destroyed. It probably will not exist on the map, at least not in the configuration it used to anymore. And thanks to all the corrupt politicians who making big money on it, and poor people, like I showed you the video, whose graves are being dug every day in Ukraine. And of course, this war is pretty cheap. You know, right now, Ukrainians are being basically as avatar soldiers for EU and NATO and United States Army fighting Russians. And they really don't understand probably that that's what they're being used for. Basically, that battlefield fodder, that's all. Because there is no benefit to them. It's only beneficial to corrupt politicians and their special interests. And that's what they're doing. So let me see. I have Julie Ricci. Should we be okay with Putin? Is Putin trying to stop Zelensky? I don't know what you mean by being okay with Putin. I mean, Putin has his own interests. We United States have our own interests. But the truth of the matter is Zelensky is genociding his own people. Ukrainian people are dying. And all Zelensky had to do is stop this war. And he could have, because when Zelensky ran for office in 2019, he promised, and he said at his inauguration speech, and I have a video of that, maybe I'll show you guys next time. He said, Zelensky, that when he ran for president and his inauguration speech, and I quote, "The first order of business for us is to stop fire at Donbass," meaning we have to stop shelling eastern Ukraine. So number one, he knew Ukraine is shelling Ukraine, Eastern Ukrainian people there in Ukraine for all this number of years since 2014. And number two, he said his first order of business as a president will be to stop that. And of course, Russia in Ukraine and Germany and France had figured out and crafted 2 Minsk Accords, peace ceasefire agreements, to say that stop fire, stop the fire. And now we know Angela Merkel and former French President de Hollander, however who calls him, they came out recently and said this was all a sham to buy Ukraine time so Ukraine could build NATO-trained army to go fight Russian and pro-Russian, what they call separatists in Eastern Ukraine. And of course, Russian border is right there. And of course, Ukraine was screaming that it's going to join NATO. And of course, Russia doesn't want Ukraine to join NATO. Would we like to have missiles on Cuba, 1964? What is it, Cuban Missile Crisis? Well, let's look at Putin and say, Julie, back to your question, should we be okay with Putin? Putin, his own person, he has Russia's interest and Russian people's interest in mind. We have our interest in mind, but we have to realize that he is not particularly dumb. He is well educated. He has been a president for many years. And when we, America, United States, do not want, at that time in 1964, Russian rockets in Cuba next to our border and next to our country, is Putin dumb enough to allow NATO expansion into Ukraine so the rockets of NATO and nuclear missiles could be put right up to Russia's border? So let's not expect him to be an idiot. Let's put it this way. But as far as is Putin trying to stop Zelensky, obviously he is trying to stop what Ukraine has become. Ukraine has become pretty much a regime that bans Russian language and it harasses Russian minority or Russian ethnic groups and some other ethnic groups as well. Ukraine allows for the ban of Russian language to the Russian speakers. Ukraine has variety of grievances. Look what Ukraine is doing to the church. Look what it's doing to opposition party. Look at all the human rights abuses. Amnesty International wrote articles. OSBE from UN wrote articles, reports on all the human rights violations in Ukraine. But our Western media and our politicians would never mention it. So Ukraine definitely has become a problem in many different ways. So whatever is Putin doing, he stated in his speeches as far as what they're trying to do in Ukraine. But I'm sure one of the things he would like to see is that Ukraine change direction from stop harassing and discriminating against Russian speakers or Russian ethnic groups and Russian minority in Ukraine, and become really an inclusive society where people's rights and due process are respected and where this Nazi ideology of Stepan Bandera, who was a Ukrainian nationalist who formed SS Nazi battalion and killed hundreds of thousands Jewish, Russian, even Ukrainian people who didn't agree with his ideology, and Romani people, Polish people. So that guy, Stepan Bandera, now is Ukraine's national hero. So I'm sure Putin and Russian people would not like right next on their border to have this Nazi growing ideology that actually carries images of swastikas of World War II and abuses Russian-speaking population and dreams of genocide in Russian-speaking population. And that's what they've been engaged in doing for the last 8.5, 9 years, because lots of the Nazi battalions, including Azov, were sent to eastern Ukraine to try to subdue those people and try to force them either out of their land or get them killed, but they would not recognize their rights. And when those people tried to vote to become autonomous part within Ukraine as part of Minsk agreements, Ukraine sort of agreed, but never ratified it and never gave them their rights and autonomy, just kept bombing them and killing them. So hope I answered your question. So we have Julie again. So Zelensky is putting and building next to Russia, and Putin does not like it. Well, I don't think any leader, and Putin is not the only person. You have to understand that the West tells us that Putin is such an autocrat, that he is the only one who rules Russia. You have to do some research and understand Russia has a parliament. And before Russia got inside Ukraine, the entire parliament voted to approve that. So you have to realize that Putin is not ruling Ukraine as a one-handed person. Russia is governed through the process of having the Security Council. They have laws, they have parliament, the parliament has rules. So it's not like whatever Putin wants goes. It does have to go through a variety of institutions before it becomes a law or a decision for the Russia to do something, including to go into Ukraine. Let me see. I have John. Let me see my comments. Skip here. John, why so little people understand the real truth of what's happening in Russia-Ukraine war? Many just believe Western media without questioning. Why? I think, John, you hit it right on the nail, or whatever the saying is. The problem is American people, we as American people, have been conditioned to believe media. We have been conditioned to believe newspapers. And the problem with that is the people don't do their own research. And as soon as you try to bring them the truth, the immediate reaction is, oh, how come I don't see this on TV? How come, CNN didn't tell me about this, or ABC News, which I understand their concern. Because for years, when we didn't have internet, who knows when that was, the only source of news were the newspaper and TV. And some people are used to only those two sources. And of course, we know that mass media has been pretty much hired by corrupt politicians to run their little scam, as far as Ukraine being a great saint, instead of Ukraine killing its own people for the last 8.5 to 9 years. But unfortunately, American people basically at large may not be so interested in the subject of Ukraine. They have other issues. They're very busy trying to make a living, trying to make ends meet. And when you come with them with this information that they have not seen on TV or in the newspaper, the immediate reaction is rejection or fear, or I don't need to hear this, I don't need to know this, because this is something that seems very outrageous, that Ukraine would kill its own people. Well, yes, it is the truth, and it is outrageous. But the famous saying, I don't want to quote whoever said it, but I think it was one of the Goebbels propaganda people way back when, And I'm afraid it looks like United States has pretty much adopted it for its marketing of the political lies, saying the bigger the lies, the faster and the sooner people will believe it. The lies we've been told about Ukraine were huge. In fact, Lara Logan, independent investigating journalist, she said, "We have been lied to on an epic scale." That's her quote. Yeah, epic scale lies. And American people better wake up and understand that the media is in cahoots and they're corrupt. And you have to understand what happened with Twitter files just shows a little bit of that, how alternative information, the truthful information has now been labeled as Russian propaganda. So it can be easily dismissed by anyone as like, oh, that's Russian propaganda, so I shouldn't know this, I shouldn't listen to it, I shouldn't read it. And that's the tag and that's the handle they use to dismiss and hide the truth. The truth now equals Russian propaganda label. So as soon as they label the truth Russian propaganda, no American wants to see it because they're scared, they don't want to know it, because they're like, oh, immediate rejection. But unfortunately, unless American society, American people will take responsibility and start doing their research, start taking the leap of faith, like, hey, maybe I should read this article. Maybe I should keep an open mind and not just blindly listen to what Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi and Lindsey Graham is telling me and what CNN or even sometimes Fox News is telling me. Just kind of take a critical thinking approach, do your own research, keep the open mind. Then they do say the truth will set you free. Question is, do you want to be free? Some people may like to enjoy their happy, what is that, ignorance is a bliss. I hope not anybody on my page likes that, but hello to everybody who is watching. You guys, I'm sure you're all great researchers and you guys don't just fall for the empty media lies. I have Julie Ritchie, thank you. Thank you for these talks. Thank you, Julie. Thank you very much for watching. And thank you, everybody who's been here. Okay, guys, I think I will wrap it up here because I'm sure you have things to do. And I am sure that we can do it some other time. I will say goodbye with that. And I give you big hugs. Hope there was a couple of things that you have, a couple of takeaways from this today. So we could do it the next time. And if there is anybody who wants to post some questions or message me, if you want to maybe join me on one of these lives, send me a message and we'll see if we can figure it out and maybe have a couple of people featured on one of these lives next time. So hope you guys all enjoyed it. And I wish you happy Sunday. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being on my live. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel and click the bell, which says all notifications. So next time I go live, no matter where you're at your grocery store, any place, you will get notification immediately as I go live. So you could watch and participate and comment, and we can have fun and learn together. Love you all, guys. Have a nice evening. Happy Sunday. Talk to you soon. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks.